Hi, I'm John Halter from Delaware Valley Outdoors, and if you can't tell from looking at the leaves behind me, it is October. And what that means for most of us is that our fishing season is coming to an end. And right now I'm getting myself in the middle of bow season, so I actually haven't fished in a little while. But what I'm doing now is I'm making sure that my fishing boat and all my fishing equipment is well taken care of and stored and put away correctly, so that in the springtime when I'm ready to get out there again, it's going to be ready for me. So what I'm going to be talking to you about today is winterizing your boat, and to make sure that your boat, your engine, and all your fishing tackle is going to be in tip-top shape. Well, the first thing you really want to do when you're talking about your boat is you want to get everything out of your boat. You want to completely empty it. You want to make sure that all of your rods are gotten out of your storage compartments. You want to make sure that your tackle box goes inside with you. And the reason is you can get lots of moisture and lots of condensation in your boat over the course of a winter, and things will rust. And so the way to protect that, the way to prevent that, is to get your rods and reels inside, at least in a garage, maybe even in a basement. I like to open up my tackle box, leave the drawers open, make sure there's no water condensing in there, or else I'm going to end up with a lot of rusty hooks. The other thing I want to make sure of is that I don't have any hooks touching any of the guides of any of my rods, because your rod guides and your hooks are made of two different types of metal, and when two different types of metal come in contact with each other, they react with each other, and it can allow them to deteriorate and allow them to rust. So make sure that all of your hooks are removed from the eyes of your rods. Get all your tackle back away. As far as the rest of the boat goes, I'm going to make sure that any soft plastics or any of my little tackle boxes that I have stored in all my compartments, same thing, I get them out. I don't want the water to deteriorate them. I want to make sure I grab my electronics. If you have a GPS or your LCD graph, there's no reason to leave them in here. There's really not much chance that the LCD graph will freeze, but there's all kind of electronics that I don't want any more condensation in here than I have to. So take them out and store them away. Take your battery chargers out if you have loose ones like this. And probably one of the most important things is your drain plug. Make sure that your drain plug is pulled and that your boat is stored on an incline, so that any rain, any snow that builds up inside the boat will be able to drain out of here. Once that's all taken care of here, then we can cover the boat up. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the last thing I want to talk about with you here is your gasoline. Gasoline is kind of misunderstood as far as how to handle or how to treat it. There's a lot of products out there on the market. Stable is probably the most common one as far as treating your gasoline when you're not going to be using it for some time. And there's nothing wrong with Stable at all. It works very well. But the reason that gas deteriorates is because it is exposed to air. The air is what contaminates the gasoline. So here's a quick tip for you as far as your gasoline goes. Fill your gas tanks up all the way at the end of the season. I mean, cap them off, get the right amount of oil mixture in there, and then seal them up. Make sure your vent is closed so that no air can get in there. And that gas will keep fine until the spring. There's absolutely no problems whatsoever. But before you do that, you actually have to worry about the gasoline in your engine. And what you should be doing, what you really should be doing every time you fish, is pull your gas line off. Use your gas line to your tank. When you're done, pull your gas line, run the engine until it stops running. Try to start it again. If it starts, run it again until it's dry. Keep running it over and over and over and over and over until the engine will not run anymore. And that way you've gotten all of the gas out of the carburetor. That little bit of gas resting in the carburetor can cause you all kinds of problems in the springtime when it comes to start again. There's all sorts of little jets and little openings and little holes that can be clogged up and gummed up. So you absolutely want to make sure you get all of the gasoline out of here. Once you get the gas out of here, fill up all your tanks, get all the other stuff out of your boat, you're ready to move on to the next part, which is taking care of your engine. Okay, what we're looking at now is this is the back of my 20 horse Mercury engine. And very common for engines of this size, there are two spark plugs here. And the next piece of maintenance you really want to take care of here is you want to pull these plugs off your spark plug get yourself a socket wrench and you want to remove each spark plug. A lot of people ask me, how often do you change spark plugs? I change spark plugs about every other year. They're pretty cheap. So you can look at it and try to get a sense of how beat up it is or how much corrosion it is, but these are in pretty good shape because I've replaced these in the spring. Next thing you want to get is you want to get you some WD-40 or some other type of spray silicone, and you want to spray each opening in there. If you've got the little straw or the little hose in there, that works well. That way you can kind of get it and angle it all around inside of there. You want to do that to each cylinder and make sure you coat the inside. Now the reason you're doing that is, again, you're trying to prevent corrosion from occurring inside the cylinder. You know, once the pistons come to rest inside of here and they're going to sit there, there is some air and there can be some water that can condense inside the cylinders, and you're trying to prevent that from rusting. Any type of WD-40 or spray silicone is a rust inhibitor, and it will prevent that from occurring. So just spray yourself a good amount in there. It's not going to hurt anything. It'll just get burned out in the spring. And then once you're finished with that, definitely want to close these back up again. Get both your spark plugs back on. Snug them up with your socket just a little bit. Pop your boots back on, and your cylinders will be ready to go next spring. Okay, the next part about engine maintenance that I want to talk to you about deals with the lower end here. First and foremost is that your engine needs to be stored vertically. Sometimes you'll see guys trailering their motors around with them set on an angle. It's very important that you not store an engine for the winter left that way. There's all sorts of different chambers in here where water is circulated through. And if any of those are left to capture some water and it doesn't drain out properly, obviously it will freeze and it can crack the engine. But when your engine is stored vertically here, it's designed that all that water will drain out of it and it will be completely dry, and you won't have to worry about any of that. But the other part of the lower end you need to address is down here where the gear fluid is. And there is a special procedure for draining this and replacing it. It's very simple, it's very easy to do, it's very inexpensive, and it really should be done every year because water can accumulate down here. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, now the first thing you need to do when you're looking at your lower end is locate these two screws here. They're pretty obvious and easy to find. One is for allowing the oil to drain out and then filling it back up again, and one is to allow air into the system. The next thing you're going to really need to have is some form of a special screwdriver that's used for loosening those screws. You're going to find that they are very, very difficult to get off. This is called an impact driver. It's designed to be whacked with a hammer, and it just loosens up the screws just a little bit. This is about a $5 part. If you happen to have something pneumatic, something that runs off of an air gun, that will certainly get these off, but this is a real cheap alternative. So what you do is you set this thing on the screws and give it a whack a few times until the screw becomes loosened. Once we get that screw out, you'll see a little bit of oil is going to start to drain out of here. Now, it's a little difficult to see, I realize, but it comes out pretty slow. And the reason it's coming out slow is because we need to allow air to enter into the system through this screw here. It's kind of like a straw. When you put your finger in the top of a straw and then lift it up, the water won't come out. So very much is the same thing here. So once this one is gotten loose and we allow air to enter into the system, the oil is going to start flowing out of there much, much faster. Okay, now virtually all the oil has drained out of here, but one more thing I think it's important to remember here is that the reason you're changing this oil is to make sure that no water has accumulated in here. And the way that you're going to know that is the first thing that would come out of here would be any water that has accumulated. That's because oil is less dense than water, and the oil will be at the top and the water will be at the bottom. So as soon as you were to open that screw up and begin to let some fluid drain out, the first thing out of there will be water, and you would know it right away. If that happens, that means that you have developed a leak somewhere inside of here. Sometimes even just getting some monofilament wrapped around your prop can interfere with the seal here on your prop shaft, and that can create a leak. And obviously the problem is that if you've got water coming in, you've got oil going out, and if that's the case, you could have some real damage done here. The thing to do in that case is to take the lower end or take the whole motor to a shop for the winter and get the seals replaced. You can probably maybe negotiate a bit of a better deal for the winter. The time to get this done is not March or April, because that's when everyone else is trying to go get their engines fixed, and you don't want to have to deal with it then. So anyway, we've drained all the oil out of here. The oil looks good. I don't have any leaks at all. So now what we're ready to do is we're ready to fill it back up again. And what we're going to do is we're going to use one of these pump kits. This is a Mercury gear lube kit, and it has this special pump attachment here. It costs about $15, and the pump can be reused year after year. There's 32 ounces in here. I think this only holds about 8, so this will be good for you for 3 years, so it's very economical. Okay. At the bottom of this gray thing, it has threads on it, and it is designed to thread up into where this screw went. And it is also very important that you take care of this right away. You would not want to drain this in the fall and then let it go until the spring before you filled it up. You need all of the gears and shafts inside of here to stay protected. Okay, so I've attached this in here. I still do not have the screw in the top because it's important. I need this open or else we won't be able to fill it up. And then it's just as simple as pumping this pump. And what happens is every time I pump this, it's forcing fluid through here up into here. And it can take, I don't know, 10 or 15 pushes before it's going to get. But what you're waiting to hear is you're waiting to hear the noise through this opening here. And you're also waiting to see a little bit of oil come dripping out of here. And that means that you've completely filled the chamber and that it's starting to come out the top. One other thing I think is important to note, that gear lube is very different than car oil, and you would not want to just be filling this up with regular 10W40 car oil. So don't try to save a buck and put something cheap in there. Gear lube is very, very thick, and it is designed specifically for this purpose. So get yourself the right product, and of course I have Mercury gear lube because I have a Mercury engine. So always best to use the product that's designed for your engine. Okay, a couple more pumps here, and I think we're going to have it. I can hear the air starting to come through here, and there is the first little bit of oil that I have dripping out. What that means is that I've been able to fill this entire chamber from the bottom up, and now we've let the air out. Now the next thing to do is to take one of my screws here and to plug this hole in back up here. There's also a gasket around this screw that's pretty important, and if that gasket is damaged at all, it's very important that you change it. Okay, I'm just going to put this in hand tight for now. So now what I've done is I've put my finger in the top of the straw, and now no more air can get in here. Now this is the tricky part, because now I have to unscrew this bottom here and somewhat quickly get this other screw in. I will lose a little bit of oil out of here when I do that, but it won't be too much. And this section here is really where the oil is designed to go. Then there's a fill tube here. If I lose a little from here, that means just my level up here will drop a little bit, but that won't be too bad. So I want to make sure I have my screw ready to go, have my screwdriver ready to go, and I'm going to slowly disconnect this. I want to keep a little bit of pressure up inside of there. I can see when it's coming loose. Okay. Got my screw ready to go. I'm ready to take this out, and basically want to pull one out and put the other in. Sometimes it's easier to do it with the screwdriver. get up in there. Again, for now I'm just going to get that snug and wipe all this oil off of here. But that was pretty good. We were able to get that in there without losing a whole heck of a lot. Now this same tool can be used for tightening the screws as well. You just have to adjust it, give it a click here, and now it's ready to tighten them up. And every time I hit this with a hammer, it slowly tightens those screws up. Give that one a few hits. Give that one a few hits. You want to stop and take a look at it, make sure that there's no leaks. And assuming you don't see any leaks here, then you are ready to go for next spring. You don't have any water in here, you're not going to have any damage from the cold weather, and you're ready to put the boat in the water next spring. Okay, the next thing I really want to talk to you about here is your batteries. And you're going to get lots of different advice from different people about your batteries. But the best thing that you could possibly do for your batteries is to take them out of your boat. Take them in the garage, take them in the basement, someplace where it's cool, but not going to be super cold. And hook them up to a charger that's going to maintain their charge. I know that can be a big pain in the butt, and a lot of guys don't want to do that. And to be honest with you, there have been years where I haven't done that either. But if you're not going to be able to do that, the next best thing you can possibly do is get in here to disconnect all of your electronics, disconnect all of your wiring, your trolling motor, your engine. Any battery that is left connected to something will slowly give up its charge. And there's just no way to avoid it. But if you can disconnect them so that nothing is attached to them, you're going to really prolong the life of them. Now, if you're the type of guy that's going to buy a new battery every spring anyway, hey, great, more power to you. But if you want to try to get another year or two out of your batteries, then I really recommend this. Now, I have very expensive batteries here. I've called AGM batteries, glass matte batteries that are filled with a gel. They're sealed. They're very expensive, but they last a long time. I've had these guys now going on 5 years, and they're fantastic. They don't have any place to fill them up with water, but I still want to take care of them, and I want to make sure they last a long time. So disconnect your wiring, keep them charged, get them out of the boat if you can. If you do have a standard lead acid type battery, those are the ones that have the caps, and they need to be filled up with water. But not just any water. It has to be distilled water. You can buy it at the supermarket. Don't use well water. Don't use water out of a tap. Nothing could be worse than that because they've got too many minerals and chemicals in it. Distilled water is completely free and clear from any of those minerals and any of those chemicals. Make sure that they get filled up and that they stay that way. Every time you charge your battery, it gives off little gas bubbles and you lose a little bit of that water. You should be checking that at least once a month throughout the summer months, and throughout the winter make sure they stay full. If they stay full, continue to keep a trickle charger on it, continue to charge them once a month, and they will be good for you for the spring. If that water gets down and the cells are exposed, then unfortunately that cell is dead. It will never hold a charge like that. So you take care of your batteries, and that battery's going to take care of you. Okay, well that just about covers everything you want to take care of with your boat. The last thing really has to do with the cover. And I've spent a lot of money on covers over the years. So I do not use my good summer cover for the winter. Winter is about the worst thing that you could possibly throw on a good cover, because the snow and the ice, I mean, it can rip it, but worst of all is it can create a lot of mold and actually wear out the cloth and wear out the stitching. So what I do is I take my good summer cover, I lay it out in the sun, get it nice and dry before I fold it up and put it away in the garage. Next thing I do is I take a couple of my old covers from years past that I've kind of stitched together, and I will set them on here. And then I'll take one of these blue tarps and lay that over top of it with a whole bunch of bungee cords and get it all situated nice and tight. The important thing to remember is that the boat must be completely dry. If there's any moisture in here at all, that moisture is going to turn into mold over the course of the winter. And when you open it up for the spring, your seats are going to be moldy, your carpet's going to be moldy, it'll smell bad. So you got a nice dry day here, nice sunshine. Leave the boat open for several hours, make sure your carpet is dry, make sure everything in here is dry, and then go through, cover it up, and seal it up with one of these blue tarps. They're pretty cheap, only $15 or $20. But whereas your summer covers are several $100s, you don't want to waste a summer cover. I usually get 5 years out of a summer cover because I only use it during the summer, and that's pretty good. So go out, buy yourself a tarp, take care of everything that way. I hope these things have been helpful for you. I hope I've been able to give you a few tips. I know that a lot of the shops will charge you $75, $80, $90, $100 to winterize your boat, but really you can do it for about $15. So I'm always out for to save a buck whenever I possibly can. Hopefully I can help you with that too. Well, I hope you have a great fall. I hope you were able to go out and do some deer hunting. But certainly, hopefully what we've been able to do here is make sure that you have a good spring when it's time to open your boat back up again. So for Delaware Valley Outdoors, I'm John Hawthorne.